Hey, everybody. This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good looking friends. Yesterday, I did a specific video focused on PR because I think right now we need to recognize what is happening. For so long, Prince Harry and Meghan have been manipulating the public by weaponizing the media. And we're seeing this play out now with all these court cases. So if you haven't seen it, please take a moment to check it out because it does change your perspective now in everything that we're seeing, not only with Harry and Meghan, but just with the media in general. So you're able to discern for yourself what's true and what's just a narrative that is being pushed. Today's judgment that came down on Harry was a severe blow to Harry's court case. Now, I'm not sure if many people understand, but the actual judgment itself does show a couple things that I hope people pick up on. I doubt the media is going to report it, so I'm guessing it's up to us citizen journalists to expose this. So, right off the bat, we see the PR machine working overtime. My guess is that it's Meghan's PR engine that's running with this. So, as you see, when you Google, or at least from my perspective, when I Google the name Prince Harry, top stories that come up show Harry looking in a negative light. I didn't ask to include Meghan, but of course, top news about Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. And what we have here is showcasing, oh, Meghan can't go to the UK because she won't be protected. Poor Meghan. Once again, we have the traditional media outlets that push out Meghan's propaganda. It doesn't look good for Harry with this recent blow from the media. And I think that there is something to be said about that. As you can see, spiteful Meghan is no longer mentioned and tied to the book Endgame and her being the one who leaked the names of the royal racists. After understanding a little bit on how the game works, you start to realize what's happening here. So they want you to forget that Meghan was behind that book Endgame and she was the one responsible for leaking those names. We need to keep that at the forefront and make sure that people do not lose sight that she was this petty, spiteful, vindictive, jealous woman who essentially plotted and planned this attack, and she should be held accountable. In the same way, her own family now has been trying to hold her accountable for in a court of law. I have to agree with the frustrated majority in opinion that the palace most likely will not take any kind of legal action against Omid Scobie, as well as, issue any type of warning to Meghan to cut it out. I think the family should know by now that Meghan's not going to stop. There's been no type of consequences for her behavior and actions up to this date. How much more is Meghan going to have to do in order for them to finally put their foot down? Does someone have to get hurt? All this is doing is signaling to Meghan that she can do whatever she wants, and she's going to continue to keep pushing buttons and seeing how far she can go until finally someone puts their foot down or someone ends up seriously getting hurt. And I don't think the palace or the family should wait and be reactive about it. Anyhow, whatever this long game is, it is seriously taking a toll mentally on the public. And quite frankly, I don't agree with it. But anyhow, today's judgment does expose Harry for weaponizing the media in such a way that it does affect, or at least in my opinion, affect right now his current case against the government to get his security back. Let me show you what I mean. Out of the many lawsuits that Harry has currently, this one pertains to A&L and the story that was written about him by Kate Mansi, indicating that Harry was trying to hide the fact that he was trying to get back his government-funded security. And the article that was released, Harry saying that it caused him quite a bit of distress because it painted him as a liar, in more or less words. I'm glad to see the justice slapped Harry down with this application that he filed because the core defense of A&L was based off of honest opinion. And thank God this justice believes in freedom of expression. Harry, on the other hand, forget it. He doesn't think that anyone else's opinion matters, but his truth and his opinion is what needs to stick. This is what I can't stand about this guy. So, this is what set Prince Harry off. It was this article dated February 19th by Kate Mancy revealing or exposing Harry trying to keep secret his bid to get back his security. In the judgment summary, I think the justice did a great job in highlighting the facts, and it does show how Harry's PR machine was used in order to manipulate and mislead the public. Let's look at some of the things that were said. So, in the justice's decision here, the core focus is really on if A&L's core defense of honest opinion should be struck out. And this is how he came to his conclusion to which it shouldn't be, and this should go to trial for A&L to prove factually why their opinion should stand. So the justice is confirming that in the documents that he saw that were lodged at the High Court, there was no such offer that Harry made to pay for this security in the initial pre action letters to the Home Office. So Harry is claiming that he made this offer to pay for security from Jump Street when he had the Sandringham summit with the Queen. Wait for it, folks. This you can't make this stuff up. Like him trying to back into saying that yes, he had this discussion with the Queen and the people that were present, and there's no evidence indicating that. It's all hearsay. So what really pissed Harry off was this article that was written rebutted the initial public statements that Harry's PR team had given out about him really wanting to put his hand in his pocket to pay for this security, fully knowing that he wasn't going to be able to do that, but for appearance's sake, that's kind of what he did, in my opinion. Crucial fact here is the Home Office lawyers state that it was only in later correspondence that the offer of paying for this security was made. What I find damning for Harry is the evidence that he brought forward in this dismissal application. Well, one, he had Jenny Afia as a witness statement. Now, I'm not sure if many of you remember who she was, but she participated in supporting Meghan and her lies for not only the Netflix mockumentary, but she also was in the BBC documentary explaining what bullying is and that Meghan wasn't a bully. Yeah, that Jenny. She also represented Meghan in her court case, in which she swore up and down in another witness statement saying that Meghan had nothing to do with finding freedom. Okay, that's the witness that Harry chose. Next, which I think is the most damning of all in light of yesterday's reporting, it says here, in January 2020, claimant, meaning Harry, announced his decision to step back from his position as a working member of the royal family with effect from April 2020. Up to that point, protective security had been provided for the claimant and his family, state security, by specially trained officers from the Metropolitan Police. Notice the key words coming from Harry's case. It's not coming from the defendant's case. In January 2020, it was his decision to step back from his position as a working member of the royal family. In nowhere does it say that he felt forced to vacate his role in the royal family and leave the UK because of security concerns for his family. As you can see here, it was his decision to vacate his role as a working member of the royal family. So help me understand, did you not feel safe while you were working as a member of the royal family? Because that's what it's sounding like. And here's my question. If in the first place you felt unsafe with all this security that you originally had, then why would you want to go back to the UK at all? If that was the reason for you being driven out of the UK and fleeing to the United States as a refugee. Help me understand and make it make sense, Harry. So, In Style magazine, one of Meghan and Harry's propaganda arms, starts to now spin a completely different narrative in which they say, so they acknowledge that they stepped away from their roles back in 2020, but now here is the new spin. They never really offered up a concrete reason as to why they decamped to the United States, instead, choosing to focus on their philanthropy and projects with Netflix and Spotify. Okay, so now the reason is because he felt forced he had to leave. Let's set the record straight from the horse's mouth.
That we were going to, sadly, be stepping back, not stepping down.
Are these two the dumbest human beings on this planet? Do people understand the dictionary definition of stepping back? Effectively, Meghan and Harry stop so they can figure it out. The Queen gave them the ultimatum: either you're in or you're out. There was nothing in between. These two carved out their own progressive path, all in a plan, before even getting any kind of approvals. So, premeditated, Harry knew that he was leaving. He didn't feel forced to leave the UK. And in the Netflix mockumentary, he couldn't stay in the UK because of how hounded Meghan was by the paparazzi, even when they had their security. So don't give this BS story any kind of air, because this is nothing more than pure manipulation. But to keep these two honest, since they can't do it themselves, here's it from the horse's mouth.
So at the end of December and the beginning of January, I've been on the phone to my father saying, we've got a plan.
What if we moved to Canada?
We thought it would be good to give ourselves some breathing space, but also we were really passionate about continuing our work throughout the Commonwealth to support the Queen.
Well, and also I think what's important is the pack of the Royal Rota is based there in London. So if we're not there, they can't cover what we're doing. You guys can be on the front pages of all the papers, you can have it exactly the way you want it, and we can just go about doing the work in the name of the Queen.
If you want us to go and do things on behalf of the Queen, we'll go and do it. And we'll pay for it ourselves. We don't want to be dependent on any taxpayer funding. Guess what? You get us, but you get us for free. And this was years in the making. We really wanted to remove the supposed public interest argument that the press had over every element of our lives. Their argument was, if you have even 1% of public funding any part of your life, then we can basically claim public interests. We can invade your privacy on everything because you have public funds supporting you. In 2018, we'd already talked about perhaps moving to New Zealand, and that never transpired. And then beginning of 2019, we discussed the whole concept of us moving to South Africa, supporting charities, organizations in Africa.
So don't give me that jazz that you were forced out of the UK because you didn't feel safe and because you didn't have the security. These two were actively planning to leave as early as 2018, either going to Australia or South Africa. I mean, you heard it come out of Meghan's mouth that she didn't want to be a part of the Rhoda. And while they were over somewhere else, the royal family could have all the front pages that they wanted, while they're over in their own little la-la land, scheming, plotting, and manipulating. The facts are the facts. On January 31st, Edward Young, who was the Queen's private secretary, wrote to Mark Sedwell, the cabinet secretary, to report on what happened out of this Sandringham meeting. And this is exactly quoted from the letter. During their time in the UK, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex expect to attend public-facing engagements representing the charities and causes which remain dear to them, not the Queen, to them. These engagements would no longer be formally undertaken on behalf of Her Majesty, but given the profile of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, we would expect they would still attract public attention. In regard to their Commonwealth patronages, although the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will not be formally representing Her Majesty, they will be undertaking work that is closely associated with Her Majesty and which may appear to the public eye to be very similar to now. Of course, a number of these patronages have been granted to them by Her Majesty and which they will continue actively to fulfill. Her Majesty may from time to time invite the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to attend national royal occasions in their private capacity, and Her Majesty is likely to invite the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to participate in family events in keeping with other non-working members of the family. And that's exactly what the Queen did. How many times has Meghan turned down the offer and invites from Her Majesty? Every single time. Continuing on of what was discussed with the Queen and agreed upon regarding security, it says, "You will understand well that ensuring that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex remain safe is of paramount importance to Her Majesty and her family. Given the Duke's public profile, by virtue of being born into the royal family, his military service, the Duchess's own independent profile, and the well documented history of targeting of the Sussex family by extremists, it is imperative that the family continues to be provided with effective security. And, of course, the family is mindful of tragic events of the past. The discussions to date, including with the former chairman of RAVAC, have been useful in making sure that the parameters of the RAVAC process are well understood. Of course, Her Majesty and her family recognize that these are independent processes and decisions, and get this, about the provision of publicly funded security are for the UK government, the government of Canada, and any other host government. The letter did not refer to the Sandringham offer. So there you have it, folks. I mean, it was documented nowhere. And Harry's saying, "Oh, yeah, I did bring it up in that meeting." Well, it's his word against theirs. And, these people really need to push back and say, "No, it was never said." Somebody needs to come forward to give testimony and say, "No, I'm sorry, Harry, you didn't bring it up. You whined, you cried like a little bitch. And we told you no, you couldn't have it. Either you're in or you're out. Somebody needs to put their foot down." And here again, stated in fact, on February 10, 2020, Harry emailed Sir Mark Sedwell to raise his concerns about removal of state security. So he at least knew that he was not getting security, most likely was told to him in the Sandringham summit in January. Also says here, it did not contain an offer by Harry to pay for state security or refer to the Sandringham offer. However, Harry's case is that the offer to pay was repeated by Harry in a meeting he had with Sir Mark Sedwell on February 3rd, 2020, and was referred to in his email to Sir Edward Young, April 16, 2020. Harry was full aware that security was going to be pulled. It wasn't like it was short notice to where he had to pack up his family and flee Vancouver to seek refuge in the United States because, it's a shocker to him that they were pulling security. He knew. So all of that was bullshit. And we know that this is bullshit because of Harry's visa here. Again, going back to the updated court case between the Heritage Foundation and the Department of Homeland Security, there's no way Harry would have been able to get a visa on the fly due to the complexity of the process of getting that special waiver. If he did claim and tell the truth that he did use mind-altering substances and still using mind-altering substances. So this story doesn't work out. It doesn't wash Harry. In the summary judgment, seeing Harry's claims makes my blood truly boil. He's stating that the decision-making was unreasonable, opaque, and inconsistent, right? Let alone Harry has been telling lie after lie after lie. Can we see the inconsistency in all his stories? It also says here that he wants himself and his family to be safe to pay for necessary security, but he can't unless the UK Home Office approves his offer. And as it stands, the Duke and Duchess's privately funded U.S. security team is not legally able to fulfill support the family when they are in the UK. While it is given more flexibility in the U.S., in the UK, this team cannot replicate the standard of security that the Duke should receive from the state. But here's the thing. They mention here that in the US, even though in the US the threats and the security level is higher and they are more capable with the private security they have, law enforcement here in the United States, organizations, we're talking FBI, CIA, the police, are allowed to be more supportive, meaning he's getting dignitary services here. And this is why it's important that this visa application needs to be put on full blast for the American people, because if he gets this security back, we're going to be stuck with that bill. And he knows that very well. He's abusing the system so he can abuse us here. So, to kick off, what really happened was on January 15th, Kate Mansi wrote an article about finding out how Harry was now suing the government to get his security back. It said nothing in the article that he was willing to pay for this security. And at the time when that story was released, there was tremendous amount of backlash, to which later on that evening, coordinated with all these various different news outlets by the PR machine, we should all be extremely happy that this case is going to go to trial in 2024, because it's going to expose Harry and Meghan's PR engine and how they weaponize the media. This is a prime example of what happened. So, the Sussex PR machine had a campaign to push out a story of Harry wanting to pay for this security, but the Home Office are so mean, not even wanting to take his good money to protect him and his family. So Scobie was in on this campaign, and being one of the first to publish these statements coming from the Sussex camp in stating that, yes, Harry wants to pay for this security and this is his legal fight to get it back. And then subsequently, soon after, you had all these other media outlets reporting the same thing, as almost as if they were prompted, and when they were told to go, all of them executed their stories at the same time. If you notice, we have The Guardian, People, The Independent, CNN, BuzzFeed News, NBC News, all left wing propaganda engines that Meghan and Harry use frequently to push out their lies. Kate Mansi then did a follow up and reached out to Jenny Afia, Harry's lawyer, to confirm a couple things, and it went ignored. So the article went out, and then subsequently, someone acting on behalf of Harry said that the legal action was over Home Office refusal to provide police protection to Harry in the UK, even if he paid for it. And then a legal representative came forward to say that the Duke first offered to pay personally for UK police protection for himself and his family in January 2020 at Sandringham. So this is where this all popped up. Now we have an actual date and time of when Harry made this suggestion that he was going to pay for security 2 years later, right? So fast forward a month later, Kate Mansi writes another article, and this is what triggered off this lawsuit. And that was accusing Harry of using his PR team to spin this narrative of wanting to pay for the security, but the Home Office said no. Essentially, what they did here is exactly what Meghan always does, and that's try to force the hand of others by putting out these big press pieces in order to get them to succumb and give them what they want. In this case, this backfired because Kate Mansi wrote that it appeared, in her opinion, that Harry didn't actually ask about paying for the security during that time and was calling his bluff and saying that he used his PR machine to mislead the public. And this is where Harry said, okay, I'm going to sue you now because I'm hurt. People now think that I'm a liar and I'm pushing misinformation. Let's keep in mind his reputation was tanking at that point because he had joined the Aspen Institute on misinformation disorder. And here he is continuing to push out more propaganda and lies. And that's kind of where we're at right now. And the judge says, you know what? The honest opinion and the freedom of expression should be allowed. And this is why I'm not going to throw it out. And this is why A&L, prove your case. You do have a strong one. And let's see what happens in 2024. And that's it, folks, in a nutshell. I wonder how this is going to play out, because clearly in these documents, it doesn't say that Harry felt that he was forced to leave the UK. And, it does show that, yeah, he was trying to get this security back because he didn't want to pay for it. And he was doing it in such an underhanded, sneaky way. And that's my opinion from everything that I've seen here. Now, the justice that's presiding over this case, Justice Nicklin, is not the same justice that is working on the case for Harry to get his security back. But I do hope that the two justices somehow get together and have a discussion to discuss that in all these documents of Harry's security being taken away, it all states from Harry that he made the decision to step back. So don't pull this garbage that yes, we don't really know why they stepped back, and here this week we find out. No, they have told us this whole entire time that they stepped away because they couldn't handle the horrible UK media. That's when they had security. So if he felt so unsafe and needed to leave the UK, then why would you want to get the security back to come back to a place where you didn't feel safe in the first place? You know what I mean? This whole thing is such a big headache, but we have to stay on top of it because, as you can see, they are flooding the media with this new narrative that, oh, they never really shared why they really left in the first place. No, 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 no. Don't even go there because nobody is believing it. Nobody is buying it. And quite frankly, it's going to piss a lot of people off if, let's say, he does get the security back. So we have to keep making noise, folks. That's what we have to do. But what do you guys think? Now we have another court case to look at in 2024 to see what happens here. I do believe that A&L is going to be able to prove that this was an opinion. You know, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And that shouldn't be challenged. Just like how if people are saying, oh, you know what? Give Harry back his security, we need to believe his truth, then we need to believe A&L's truth. You know what I'm saying? Anyhow, what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.